Can you afford a tiny house? That's what I'd like to talk about. Today, I'm going to go through one or two companies that are making tiny houses in South Africa. I'm sure there are a lot more, but I'd just like to have a conversation about, is it worth buying a pre-made tiny house? Now, there are some really awesome tiny houses, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I think they're beautiful. I am completely jealous. But the honest truth is, can we afford it? So that's what we're going to discuss today. Let's talk about some tiny house stuff. I am currently sitting in my tiny house that I built, this amazing little space, and it's been many years. Currently, actually, we use it now mostly as where we sleep. It's like a second bedroom, and it's my tiny office. I wanted to talk a little bit about buying pre-made tiny houses in South Africa. Years ago, I built my tiny house, and I had a budget, and my budget must have been 150,000 rand. So the thing is, if you are outside of South Africa, $10,000 is really, it's not an unattainable amount of money. And even in South Africa, if you ask the kind of people, most of the people that are wanting to live in tiny houses, they would probably, if you said 150,000, that would kind of be almost a manageable figure. So as someone who built their own tiny house and has lived in it, put my own power, off-grid power, water, internet, everything in myself, I feel like I have some kind of, I'm allowed to have an opinion about it. So I'm going to review some of what I think. There's two wonderful companies that I found, and please, this is no dig at the companies. I understand what wood costs, I understand what good workmanship costs, but effectively it's just trying to bring the dream and the reality to a place where one can make very good and clear decisions. Wow, look how beautiful these are. So welcome to my little office, in my tiny office, in my tiny house. I just did a Google search of tiny houses in South Africa, and I've come up with two amazing companies, and they are called tinyhome.africa, and we've got wanderlust.co.za, Wanderlust Co. I think these companies are amazing, they make such beautiful houses. So, but the thing that I really want to talk about is when we go to the pricing. Okay, so let's look at the pricing. Basically, if we go to Tiny Home, and they do more like a module housing, and I think that's where a lot of people are leaning, because once you start getting to putting a house on a trailer, it starts to add a lot more expense to it. And another thing to consider is that none of these houses are off-grid. If you want off-grid, it's always extra. I mean, if you looked at, say, the house that I live in currently, the one that I built, it is 7 meters by 2.4 by 3.4 high, and it has a little loft. You know, if you were to look at a similar house, 6 by 3, 18 square meters, single story, you are looking at 395,000. That's freestanding. That's before you actually get a wheel, so you can't move it around. So it is movable. I think it's constructed so that it can be lifted and moved. But still, you know, 395,000. Do you have 395,000? I don't have it. You know, 500,000 beautiful finishes. Okay, and then if we go to the other one, we go to Wanderlust and we go stick on pricing, and we look at the mobile versions of their homes, which are, these were the first that I ever saw, and you know what, if I had the money, I would totally buy one, hands down. I would scrap mine, sell it, and I would just buy one of these buttes. They are now for 6.5 by 2.5, it's 450,000, and the 8 meter version of that is 490. And then if you go to the nicer version, you're looking at, for the 8 meter long, that's 625,000. Now, tiny houses are only going to be for a certain kind of person. You're either going to be able to know how to live small, you've lived on boats or vans for a very long time. A lot of people that I've chatted to personally that have come to my email or through my YouTube channel, a lot of people are coming because they're trying to you know, deal with the economic constraints of living in South Africa and kind of, you know, living as we do. So, you know, when I look at 625,000 Rand, or let's say 350,000 Rand, you know, that's before you find a place to park it and pay a monthly rental. That's before an electrical connection. That's before, like, these aren't going to give you more water than you can use in a single week, you know. I personally think that if you have that amount of money, then buying yourself a small piece of land and putting a Wendy house on it if you have to, because you might be able to find a plot for that value, and then you could actually start in a Wendy house, and as you grow and you keep your resources small and you know, you build, then you have somewhere to build. And yes, the mobility part of it is part of the dream, but if being mobile is what you want and being able to be a digital nomad or move around, then buy a van and live in a van, and you'll probably, it will cost a lot if you do it nicely and you do it properly, but you'll get a good resale on it. And when you get tired of the compact space and the compact life, you always, you know, you can grow into something else. So yeah, that's just something that I wanted to talk about. So, whether you can afford a tiny house or you can't afford a tiny house, that's going to be up to you. Like I said multiple times, there's some beautiful builders out there, and if you've got the money, I would totally recommend it. My personal recommendation is to build your own. And yeah, and beyond that, I would say even to try keep it as simple and efficient as possible, and really consider the mobility to the stationary option. Everything that I've spoken about, the links to the websites that I showed you today, are in the description below. If you would like to book a consultation with me, please just drop me an email and we can set it up and have a chat about it. And thanks again for popping in, and I look forward to making some more fun content like this. Have a great day. Bye.